Hume is certainly not a militant atheist, such as you would find today, Richard Dawkins, Sam Harris, Christopher Hitchens, these new atheists, even though many of them would want to recruit Hume for their cause and would use a lot of sort of reheated Humean arguments. Hume himself was, so I argue in the book, not an atheist, because that would commit him to too much. Atheism, if atheism is the denial of the existence of God, that's a metaphysical claim, and Hume doesn't think that you can rationally justify any metaphysical claims, whether it's the claim that God does exist or the claim that God doesn't exist. So Hume is better described as an agnostic, someone who's not going to commit himself regarding certainly the existence of God as classically understood, an all-powerful, all-good, transcendent creator of the universe. In some of his writings, he does show sympathies for deism or something close to deism. It's hard to pin him down, but he does say that really everyone can clearly see that there's some sort of intelligent agency behind the universe. He's not exactly an intelligent design advocate, but he acknowledges that there is some sort of design or order. But his argument is that you don't need theism, you don't need classical theism to explain that kind of order. But nor is he a champion of atheism either. He's a champion of skepticism about any religious claims for or against. Now, what motivates that? Well, that's more of a psychological question, and I try not to get into psychoanalysis of Hume in the book, although we as Reformed Christians know that there is an underlying spiritual issue of suppression of the knowledge of God, and Hume, like any unbeliever, wants to escape the force of natural revelation. He wants to find ways to assert his autonomy. And that's something I discuss in the book, that Hume really at the start of his project assumes an autonomous stance with respect to human knowledge and human ethics. And he really wants to explain all of human experience without reference to God, without reference to the supernatural. It's not that he starts with some neutral position and then concludes that supernaturalism is false, but really he starts with a methodological naturalism, follows it through, and of course ends up with naturalistic theories of ethics, of religion, of everything else. But it all goes back to that initial starting point. He's not a neutral observer, he's not a neutral thinker. Of course, none of us are.
Yeah, it's interesting. We can't get into psychologizing Hume, but there is indication also that he even struggled to live out his philosophical thoughts. I mean, he recognized the tension between the conclusions of his philosophical project and how he lived in the world, and it just kind of at the end of the day just had to put aside his philosophy just to exist.
Yeah,
just to kind of
that's right. And he makes some extremely candid, revealing comments in his philosophical works. There's some stuff in his, he did a sort of brief autobiography of a summary of his life, but even in his philosophical works, he speaks quite personally about how when he follows through the implications of his philosophy, it leads him to certain skeptical, very radical, troubling skeptical conclusions about what he actually knows. He finds it disturbing, and he says, well, basically, I have to leave my study, and I go find my friends, have a drink, play some backgammon, and everything seems normal again. All of my beliefs, my common sense beliefs are sort of still in place. I don't worry about it. And he's in this tension between Hume the philosopher and Hume the ordinary human being who has to live in the world along with the rest of us.